So, welcome once again to DSCJ Home Classes, an attempt to connect learner with instructor, a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education Jammu. So, my dear learners, we are here with one of the very interesting poems, that is Punishment in Kindergarten. Myself, Manmeet Bali, Senior Lecturer in English, Department of School Education, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So, when we talk of the poems and the prose, definitely Chinatu comes to our notice. It's a beautiful anthology of prose and poems written by Nina Kaul and Renu Anand. And we are here with Punishment in Kindergarten, Chinatu, Lesson 6, and the poet is Kamala Das. Really, it's so interesting to know about the poets. When in my childhood days, I used to wonder if the poem was beautiful. We used to recite it, and we used to have a lot of fun while reciting the poem. But the only thing is that we never had that idea that even the poet should also be recognized. Now, since we're teaching you, we think that it is very important to let you know about who the writer is and how they have taken this idea of writing so beautiful poem. About the author, so Kamala Suraiya, born as Kamala on 31st of March 1934, popularly known by her one-time pen name Madhvi Kuti and married name Kamala Das, was an Indian English poet as well as a leading Malayalam author from Kerala, India. Her popularity in Kerala is based chiefly on her short stories and autobiography, while her over in English, written under the name Kamala Das, is noted for the poems and explicit autobiography. She was also widely read columnist and wrote on diverse topics, including women's issues, childcare, politics, and so many other topics to her credit. She passed away on 31st May 2009. So, a brief introduction of the poet, and we move to this diagram, that is punishment in kindergarten. So you can well imagine that when an elder, that could be our parents, that could be our teachers, they scold us for something and how we feel, how depressed we are. Okay. Now, summary of the poem. In first look, it seems to be a very simple poem in which Kamala Das is narrating a story of her childhood when she, along with her kindergarten class, was taken to picnic by the teacher. So these children, they had gone for a picnic and she was scolded by the teacher. She wanted to play with others, but at the very same time, the teacher scolded her by saying, "What a peculiar child you are." And see, imagine in front of all the students, in front of her classmates, when she was scolded like this, she felt so bad, she felt so troubled by the harsh words of her teacher that till date she remembered those harsh words. And this short poem represents moving on with life, or in a sense, growing up from being immature child towards being mature adult, right? So, the poet could not bear the scolding from her teacher. She felt insulted, as I told you, and her viewpoint in the poem was that the years reduced the intensity and harshness of the hurtful incident. The angry words and the laughing faces are vague and unclear, so totally disturbed. A personality that had to bloom itself, that had to know so many things in life, was turned down by depression, and the depression came because of the harsh words of her teacher. So, certain incidents close to heart are remembered and others are forgotten. Life moves on. The poet is now adult and looks back on that painful incident, but now she says that she has grown up and now she does not bother with that incident which gave her pain. So, time passes like that. The poem is divided into three stanzas. In the first stanza, the poet discusses how the teacher scolded her. Okay. Then the second, she memorizes her schoolmates laughing her and making her weep. In the final stanza, she says that being an adult, there is no need for her to collect this experience. So these three stanzas comprise of this beautiful poem. The stanza is a group of lines in a repeated pattern that form a unit in some type of poems, right? So, for the first stanza, I read it for you. Today the world is a little more my own. No need to remember the pain a blue frocked woman caused, throwing words at me like pots and pans to drain that honey colored day of peace. Why don't you join the others? What a peculiar child you are. Just imagine what a peculiar child you are when somebody remarks you with such hurtful words, how you feel. So the poet still remembers the blue frocked woman. She threw the words like pots and pans to her to make her feel the intensity of the words, and she feels that the honey colored day of peace, which was ruined by the harsh words of her teacher, and she called her a peculiar child. What kind of peculiarity the poet had? So she could not understand till date. In the first part of the poet narrates that day, which was quite pleasant, and it was ultimately ruined by her teacher. Now I read the second stanza for you. The diagram you can see the picnic and the teacher scolding her, and see the opposite of both the pictures. Here you are making merry, and here you are, distressed. You are being scolded. So, how you feel, the two feelings. On the lawn in clusters sat my schoolmates sipping sugarcane. They turned and laughed. Children are funny things. They laugh in mirth at others' tears. I buried my face in sun-warmed hedge and smelled the flowers and the pain. So, the other students who were sipping the sugarcane started laughing at her. The children, according to Kamala Das, are funny creatures because they do not have that feelings that can help their classmates. If the teacher scolds them, they will have some reason to laugh at them. So, the poet combines flowers and pain together. She has compared her childhood to a sweet, fragrant flower which is ruined by the harsh words of a teacher. So, she conveys that pain took over her innocent childhood. And after that, what happens? The words are muffled now, the laughing faces only a blur. The years have sped along, stopping briefly at beloved halts and moving sadly on. My mind has found an adult peace. No need to remember that picnic day when I lay hidden by a hedge, watching the steel white sun standing lonely in the sky. So lonely was she that she had to hide her face, because after being called a peculiar child, she says, my face in the sun warmed hedge, and I smelled the flowers and the pain. So there was a combination of the flowers and the pain. After she sees that the classmates are laughing at her, and you feel so alone. They were sipping the sugarcane, they were with the teacher, and the poet alone there standing by the hedge. So the memory has not faded away, but is quite clear in her mind as she remembers the past very well. So this is described in stanza 3, and poet says that now she's grown up. The memory of that event has faded away because there's nothing in her childhood to cherish and desire for. So now she has grown up, the words are muffled. So the main themes of the poem, it is the nostalgia and the sense of moving on with life. With her long experience in life, the author has learned that life is a mixture of joy and sorrow. The long passage of time has taught her many things. She is no more a lonely individual as she used to feel when she was a child. So, the theme of the poem is nostalgia and the sense of moving on with life. She has to move on with life. No doubt she feels sick of her childhood days because she had a bad experience, and with her long experience in life, the author has learned that it is a mixture of joy and sorrow, and she's more a lonely individual previously, but now she's not that because she feels that now she has grown up. So, see the difference? Earlier, she was a child. She tried to be happy, but her teacher did not do that. And now she's a grown up girl, a grown up lady. So, some important questions. What do you understand about the character of the child in the poem? So, children, the child is very shy and sensitive. So, you can discuss about the character of the child who's described in the poem. She's very easily hurt and cries for the slightest reason because she did not mix up with other people. She was introvert and preferred to be alone, and she carried a scar of that incident into her adult life, and how sensitive she was. So many things they carry with themselves when they are children, some kind of sensitive children, so they do not enjoy as usual as other children enjoy. Why did other children laugh at the poet? The other children laughed at the poet in merriment. They enjoyed when the teacher scolded the poet. So that's why they laughed. Because when somebody scolds you, you do not know for what reason the teacher is scolding the fellow beings. So you make a laughter out of it. Same did the students in her class laughed at her. And next question is, why do you think the words of the blue frocked woman are muffled now? So it is frocked here. The ears have diluted the intensity of the pain, and the adult narrator is able to recount the incident with an adult piece. The ears have reduced the intensity and harshness of the hurtful incident. So now the time has passed and the hurtful incident has started fading in the heart of the poet. The angry words and laughing faces are vague and unclear. How difficult is the world today to the poet? It is different because now she's grown up, she's gained more confidence and greater control over her life. So, I can ask you now, how many speaking voices are there in the poem? There are 2 speaking voices, one of an adult and other of the child, but both are being narrated by the poet. And words you should know. Its mirth means laughter, merriment, more of my own. That means it is described in the poem. Now the world is more of my own. That means the poet is in control of her own life. And obviously emotions, muffled, not loud or clear, vague. Now the memories of the past incident of her childhood are vague. Peculiar child, she recalls that she was told peculiar child, that is odd and strange. To drain, that is to empty. So like pots and pans, this is a simile, children, one of the important elements used in the poetry. It is the comparison between word shouted in anger, pots and pans, which make a lot of noise when handled roughly. So pots and pans, it is the word which makes the comparison between the words shouted in anger and which makes a lot of noise when handled roughly. To drain, just as pots and pans are used to collect or drain things, also the words of the teacher drain the beautiful day with of its peace, right? So it also drained the peace of that day. And with these words, children, it is not that Chinar textbook has made you more proficient in dealing with the poems, but it has consequently enabled you to use the language with confidence, and you can be a professional, you can say a reader. Why? Because when you read poems and you read the stories, you read the text, you read prose, you definitely understand a lot. So I have tried to attempt to develop your ability to read and interpret the poem through a series of stanzas, that is stanza 1, stanza 2 and stanza 3. And these are the incidents which we just recalled. So it could be the best thing when you read the poem and enjoy it. Just close your books and enjoy the poem, right? So this is the best tribute we can pay to Kamala Das. Thanks and best wishes. So I hope that we meet again. God bless. Thank you.